The galaxy was burning. Two great alien empires had met in open war, and their fleets clashed in the void like thunder. Energy beams lit the dark of space. Warheads screamed across the battlefield. Dozens of ships broke apart in fire, leaving broken hulls drifting in silence. The war had dragged on for years, but this battle was meant to end it. Both sides brought everything. Thousands of ships lined against each other. Commanders shouted orders. Soldiers braced for death. The galaxy had seen many wars, but this one was different. It was too big, too violent, and too close to tearing whole star systems apart. Then, in the middle of this storm, something happened. Something that made even the most hardened admirals fall silent. At the far edge of the battlefield, a shape appeared. It was not announced. It was not part of any fleet. It simply arrived. A dark warship, massive and strange, drifted into sight. No one knew where it came from. No signals warned of its jump. No engines flashed. One moment space was empty, the next moment, it was there. The alien fleets paused. Weapons kept firing, but commanders hesitated. They scanned the unknown craft, but nothing returned. The hull swallowed every scan like a black hole. Its armor looked alive, shifting with shadows. No one had seen a design like this before. It was not theirs. It was not anyone's they recognized. Fear spread. Whispers went across comm channels. Who made this? Which empire owned such a beast? The answer came too quickly. A single word repeated across the ships. Human. The galaxy had almost forgotten about Earth. Humans were a minor race, ignored and mocked. The Council had dismissed them long ago, calling them too weak for real power. Other empires had written them off as background noise, a species that would never rise high. But here, in the middle of a war that shook the stars, stood a warship built by human hands. And it did not look weak. The ship drifted slowly forward, cutting through wreckage like a shadow. Alien admirals felt their hearts beat faster. Some shouted for all guns to target it. Others whispered to hold fire. The strange ship had not attacked, but it did not need to. Its very presence froze the battlefield. Even the dying ships, their crews choking on smoke, turned their broken sensors to watch. Everyone wanted to know what it would do. One alien commander, old and proud, tried to laugh. He told his crew, "It is only a myth. Humans cannot build this." But his voice shook. Deep inside, he knew the truth. This was no myth. This was real. And it was worse than any story. Across the battlefield, the war slowed. Fleets that were sworn enemies stopped fighting just to stare. It was like the universe itself held its breath. Then the comms crackled. A sound echoed across every channel. Not a weapon, not a warning shot. A voice. Calm. Cold. Human. This battle is over. Those 4 words carried more weight than 1,000 warships. No one could move. No one dared answer. The alien fleets had lived in war for centuries, but never had a single voice silenced so many. The mysterious ship did not fire. It did not even raise its weapons. It simply moved closer, slow and steady, as if it owned the battlefield. Its dark hull reflected the burning wreckage of alien fleets, and it looked like a ghost from the void. Admirals whispered to each other, desperate. Should they retreat? Should they attack? Should they beg? No one knew what would happen if they made the wrong choice. One fleet broke first. Dozens of alien ships turned and fled, engines burning hard. Fear had taken them. Others stayed frozen in place. They could not believe it. A single ship had turned the galaxy's greatest battle into silence. For the first time in centuries, war paused. For the first time, the galaxy faced something new. Humanity had returned. And with it came a shadow that stretched across the stars. The galaxy did not yet know what the humans wanted. It did not know why they came, or what they planned. But one thing was clear to all who watched. If this was only one ship, then the galaxy was not ready for what else might follow. Long before the warship appeared, the galaxy thought humanity was finished. On Earth, humans had once begged for a seat in the Galactic Council. They sent messages, offered trade, even shared small pieces of technology. But the great empires laughed. They saw humans as nothing more than children. Too young, too weak, too noisy. Humanity was pushed aside, locked out of the games of power. The Council believed Earth would fade into silence. Yet silence can be dangerous. Over the years, stories began to spread. Small, quiet stories. A trader once claimed his ship vanished near the Sol system, only to reappear days later without memory of how. A mercenary swore he saw a human ship move without engines, jumping from one point to another like it had broken the laws of space. A scout captain returned from deep space half-mad, whispering about a giant shadow ship with no lights, no sound, and no heat. He said it followed him for 3 days, then disappeared. None believed him. The Council dismissed these as lies, tricks of space, or madness. But the whispers did not stop. They grew louder, crossing star systems, spreading in hushed voices. Some said humans were building in secret. Others said Earth had vanished entirely, cut off from the galaxy by choice. No one could confirm the truth. The Council mocked the idea, laughing in their chambers. Humans, they said. They cannot even protect their own planet. They are no threat. But not everyone laughed. A few old empires remembered how humans fought in ancient wars. Fragile bodies, yes, but minds like fire. They never stopped, never surrendered, never forgot. One alien scholar once wrote, "Humans are dangerous not because of strength, but because of patience. They wait. And when they move, they strike where you do not see." His words were ignored. Until now. When the dark warship arrived on the battlefield, those whispers returned to life. The admiral of the HFY Dominion stared at the ship and muttered. The stories were true. His crew looked at him in terror. Across the battlefield, other commanders felt the same cold truth. The shadow was real. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had been preparing. Questions burned across every channel. Why had humans stayed silent for so long? Where did they hide? How did they build something so far beyond galactic science? The Council had believed themselves masters of war, yet this one ship made them all feel like children holding sticks against a storm. Soldiers inside alien warships looked at their screens with wide eyes. Their hands shook. Some remembered tales told in training. If you see a black ship without lights, do not follow it. Do not shoot. Pray it does not see you. Those stories were dismissed as fear talk. But here they were, face to face with the nightmare. Even the most fearless captains hesitated. They thought of their families, their empires, their worlds. If humanity had more of these ships, and surely they did, then no empire was safe. The battlefield filled with whispers, half prayers, half pleas. Why now? What do they want? Why here? But deep inside, everyone knew the answer. The humans had chosen this battlefield because it was not about the two empires fighting. It was about the galaxy watching. This was a message. Humanity had returned, and they wanted every eye to see. In council halls far away, leaders trembled as reports reached them. They remembered their arrogance, their laughter, their dismissal of Earth. Now they saw the cost of that mistake. Humanity had been silent, but not still. They had been working in shadows, away from prying eyes. They had built something the galaxy could not even imagine. And now, they had revealed it. The galaxy froze in fear when the warship entered the battlefield, but in the council chambers, fear turned to dread. Because everyone asked the same question. If this is only one ship, how many more are waiting? The whispers of humanity were no longer whispers. They were reality. And reality was far more terrifying than the stories. The alien fleets stared in silence as the human warship moved deeper into the battlefield. No engines glowed, no thrusters burned, yet the massive vessel drifted with perfect control. Its hull swallowed light like a piece of the void itself. Commanders ordered scans again and again, but every result was the same: no data. The ship returned nothing. It was like trying to read a shadow. Weapons systems failed to lock onto it. Energy readings vanished into static. The more they tried, the less they understood. The admirals grew uneasy. They were trained to fight, to analyze enemies, to measure power. But here was a warship that gave them nothing. It was a ghost, and ghosts could not be fought with normal weapons. Soldiers whispered among themselves, their voices trembling. They asked each other what kind of ship could ignore scans. Was it made of a material unknown to science? Did it bend space around it? Did it hide inside another dimension? No answer came. Fear grew heavier. Across the battlefield, both empires stopped shooting at each other. The war they had sworn to win no longer mattered. All eyes were on the intruder. It was not just a warship. It was a question too large for the galaxy to answer. Then, the ship spoke again. Across every channel, on every frequency, a single human voice echoed. Calm, measured, without emotion. This battle is over. The words carried no threat, no anger, only certainty. Yet that certainty was more terrifying than the loudest roar. Commanders froze. Some shouted at their crews to cut the transmission, but the voice still came through. It was everywhere, as if the ship was not only speaking but forcing the galaxy to listen. Leave now, or face judgment. Those words made even the proudest admirals hesitate. The alien fleets looked at one another in confusion. Judgment? What did that mean? Was it a warning? A promise? A curse? No one could tell. But the ship did not wait for them to decide. The void rippled. Small panels along its surface unfolded like wings. For the first time, the galaxy saw its true form. The dark armor peeled back slightly, revealing layers beneath that glowed faintly with deep red light. It was not like any engine or reactor they knew. It looked alive, like veins carrying fire. Alien officers stared at their screens in shock. Some thought it was a weapon. Others thought it was a shield. But whatever it was beyond their science. One admiral of the Krith Empire, known for his pride, ordered his fleet to fire. Hundreds of ships turned their weapons on the human vessel. Beams of plasma, nuclear missiles, and railgun slugs shot forward like a storm. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to explode. The battlefield lit up with more energy than a sun. The human warship disappeared inside the fire. Alien soldiers cheered. The admirals breathed out. But then the smoke cleared. And the ship was still there. Unharmed. Silent. Untouched. The alien weapons had done nothing. It was as if the warship had not even noticed. Scans showed no damage, no cracks, no burns. The ship was whole. The cheers turned to screams. Panic spread through the fleets. If thousands of weapons could not scratch it, then nothing could. And then, with no sound, no warning, the human ship acted. A single ripple of red light pulsed across its hull. No missile fired. No cannon shot. Just a wave of energy, invisible to the eye but deadly to everything it touched. In one instant, an entire alien fleet disappeared. Hundreds of ships, gone. No wreckage. No fire. No debris. They simply ceased to exist, erased from space. The crews of nearby ships stared in horror. Their scanners showed nothing where the fleet had once been. Empty space. Like those ships had never been real. Silence fell again. No one fired. No one moved. Even the alien admirals, furious and proud only moments before, now sat frozen, their hands shaking. They realized they were not facing a weapon. They were facing something greater. The human warship was not fighting them. It was judging them. Its power was not destruction. It was erasure. It could remove anything, anyone, as if deciding they no longer belonged to existence. And it had done so without effort. One fleet gone, thousands of lives erased, with only a ripple. Fear became terror. Soldiers whispered prayers. Commanders looked at their families' pictures, knowing they might never return home. Across the galaxy, leaders receiving the live feeds stared in silence. The council halls were filled with shock. The laughter of centuries turned into dread. They understood too late what the whispers had meant. Humanity had not only survived. Humanity had risen higher than any of them could imagine. And now, as the shadow ship drifted calmly forward, everyone understood the truth. This was no ordinary warship. This was a message carved in fear. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy would never be the same. The battlefield was silent after the first fleet vanished, silence so heavy it felt like the stars themselves were holding their breath. No wreckage floated in space, no broken ships, no cries from dying crews. They were simply gone, erased as if they had never existed. The alien admirals sat frozen in their chairs, unable to believe what their own eyes showed them. Weapons that had destroyed planets had done nothing. Yet one pulse from the human warship had ended hundreds of ships in an instant. It was not war as they understood it. It was something else, something beyond their imagination. Yet silence never lasts in battle. Another empire's admiral, desperate and afraid, refused to accept what had happened. He shouted to his crew, ordering every ship under his command to attack. His words cracked with fear, but still his fleet obeyed. Thousands of alien weapons armed themselves again, missiles primed, cannons loaded, energy coils glowing bright. With a roar of light, they fired. The battlefield shook as waves of plasma, lasers, and warheads slammed into the void. Every weapon of destruction the galaxy had known for centuries was unleashed at once. It was a storm of fire meant to crush gods. And yet, when the light cleared, the human warship remained untouched. The weapons had not even scratched its surface. The black hull absorbed every strike like drops of rain falling into an endless ocean. The admirals stared at their screens, their voices lost. Soldiers whispered in terror. This was no ordinary shield, no technology they could compare to their own. It was as if the human ship existed in another layer of reality, untouchable by the tools of the galaxy. And then, it struck again. This time, it was not one fleet. It was two. Another pulse, silent and unseen, rippled across the void. And then two whole fleets vanished, thousands of ships erased in less than a heartbeat. Space that had been filled with enemy warships was now empty. The battlefield was being cleaned, erased by something that did not even move. Fear turned to chaos. Fleets broke formation. Crews begged their commanders to retreat. Captains screamed orders to flee. Even the bravest admirals felt their courage break. Some ordered their ships to scatter into hyperspace, but the moment their drives charged, they too vanished, erased before escape. It was not a battle anymore. It was judgment, cold and absolute. The human ship did not chase, did not fire, did not hunt. It only erased, calm and slow, as if it had all the time in the universe. The galaxy had always believed strength came from numbers, from fleets and firepower. But here was a single ship doing what no empire could do. It was not a contest. It was a reminder. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer the weak race that begged for a seat in the council. They were something else now, something greater, something terrifying. Panic spread across comm channels. Some begged for mercy, broadcasting desperate messages into the void. Others cursed, shouting defiance with voices that shook. But the warship did not respond. It simply kept moving, silent, cold, inevitable. One alien captain tried to ram his ship into the black giant, hoping to sacrifice himself in a final act of defiance. His crew screamed, but he forced the engines to full. The ship shot forward at impossible speed, but when it touched the human vessel, it was simply gone. No explosion, no crash, nothing. It vanished before contact, erased like the others. The crew of nearby ships cried out in horror. No one could fight this. No one could even touch it. The human warship continued forward, passing through the wreckage of burning fleets. But where it went, silence followed, silence and fear. The admirals who still lived realized the truth. This ship was not here to win a battle. It was here to send a message. The galaxy had mocked humanity, ignored them, dismissed them as weak. Now the galaxy was learning the price of arrogance. Across star systems, the Council watched the feed with pale faces and trembling hands. Entire chambers fell into chaos. Some demanded surrender, others demanded research, but all knew it was already too late. The human warship had shown them what humanity had become. The first strike was not a battle, it was a warning. And if this was what one ship could do, the galaxy feared to imagine what an entire human fleet might unleash. The galaxy had seen many wars, but never had it seen anything like this. Where fleets once clashed, now there was silence. Where thousands of ships once filled the void, now only a single black warship drifted. The admirals who survived could not speak. Their crews sat frozen at their stations, afraid to even breathe too loudly, afraid the human vessel would notice them next. Across the stars, on distant worlds, billions watched the battle feed with wide eyes. The council chambers shook with panic. For centuries they had mocked humanity, keeping Earth outside their circles of power. They had believed humans were weak, a species too primitive to matter. They laughed at Earth's requests for alliances. They ignored their warnings. They believed humanity would remain small forever. But humans had not stayed small. They had gone silent, and in silence they had built something the galaxy could not imagine. They had learned secrets the empires thought were impossible. The whispers that once floated through dark space were no longer whispers. They were truth. Humanity had returned. And they had chosen this moment to reveal themselves. The galaxy's strongest fleets had been reduced to nothing, not through war, but through erasure, through technology beyond understanding. The warship had erased whole armadas as if wiping chalk from a board. There was no smoke, no wreckage, only absence. To the galaxy, this power looked like godhood. To the humans, it was only the beginning. On the battlefield, the warship finally spoke again. Its voice was human, but carried across every channel, into every ear. Calm, steady, without anger. We warned you. The words made alien commanders tremble. Many had never heard humans speak directly. Their voices sounded soft compared to the guttural tones of other species, but the softness made it worse. There was no rage, no shouting, only certainty. The voice continued. We asked for peace. You denied us. We asked for respect. You mocked us. We asked for silence, and you brought war to our skies. Now you will learn. The fleets listened in horror, powerless to answer. Soldiers clenched their fists, tears running down their faces. They were soldiers trained for war, but this was no war. This was judgment. The admirals of both empires realized the same truth. This was not about their war. This was about the galaxy itself. Humanity had returned not just to stop a battle, but to send a message to all who watched. The galaxy had treated Earth as a forgotten world. Now Earth had returned as the shadow over them all. In the council chambers, leaders argued desperately. Some demanded surrender. Some demanded immediate research to copy whatever power humanity had found. Some whispered about alliances, others about resistance. But none could deny what they saw. One human ship had erased fleets that could have burned worlds. If there were more, and surely there were, then resistance was hopeless. The truth sank into them like poison. The galaxy had laughed at Earth, and now Earth stood ready to decide their future. On the battlefield, alien captains tried to beg for peace. They opened channels, pleading for mercy, swearing they would retreat, swearing they would never fight again. But the human ship did not respond. It simply hovered there, silent, unmoving, as if watching, as if measuring the galaxy. Fear grew heavier with every second of silence. No one knew what the humans would do next. Would they erase more fleets? Would they burn entire worlds? Would they vanish again into the dark? The uncertainty was worse than death. Because the galaxy understood now. They were no longer in control. Humanity was. And the humans were not here to ask. They were here to command. The Council tried to send messages to Earth, but no replies came. Earth was silent as it had been for centuries. The only voice was the warships, cold and calm. Leave. Return to your worlds. This war is over. Slowly, the remaining alien fleets turned. They retreated, broken and afraid, leaving the battlefield to the human warship. For the first time in galactic history, two great empires ended their war in silence, not through treaty, not through surrender, but because one ship had told them to stop. And as the last alien vessels vanished into hyperspace, the black warship remained. Watching. Waiting. A shadow against the stars. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy now knew they were no longer weak, no longer ignored, no longer forgotten. They were the storm that had been waiting in the dark. And this was only their beginning. The Galactic Council had ruled for thousands of years, believing themselves untouchable, believing their fleets, their weapons, and their endless power made them gods of the stars. But when the human warship erased fleets like dust, that belief collapsed. In the Great Council chamber, leaders of dozens of species gathered in panic. Voices shouted across the hall, claws banged against tables, tentacles waved in anger, wings fluttered in fear. Some screamed for peace, others demanded preparation for war, but all spoke with the same trembling weakness. The image of the black human warship played again and again on the giant screens above them. It hovered silently over the battlefield, alone, yet more powerful than entire empires. The counselors could not take their eyes off it. Their generals sent reports filled with terror. Their admirals admitted they had no defense, no strategy, no hope. For the first time in history, the council was afraid. Whispers ran through the chamber. How many more ships did humanity have? Was that only one, or were their fleets hidden in the dark? Could they be everywhere already? Some believed humanity had been watching for centuries, learning, waiting. Others feared the humans had mastered technology that made them invisible. One counselor shouted that the humans had broken reality itself, that their ship was not even part of this universe. No one laughed, because no one could prove him wrong. Fear became poison. Allies turned on each other, accusing rivals of knowing more about humanity, accusing spies of hiding information. The chamber filled with chaos, every empire desperate to protect itself. Some called for surrender before it was too late, but others screamed that surrender was useless, because what could you offer to a power that could erase you with a thought? In the far corners of the galaxy, ordinary people watched the news in silence. Farmers on quiet worlds, miners in the asteroid belts, children in city towers, all of them stared at the same black warship and felt the same cold fear. For generations, they had been told humans were weak, unimportant. Now those same humans held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. Some whispered prayers to human gods, believing they were now real. Others cursed their leaders for mocking Earth. Rumors spread like fire. Some claimed whole planets had already vanished without a trace. Others swore they had seen multiple human ships moving silently through star systems, watching. The truth did not matter. Fear mattered, and fear was everywhere. In the council chamber, an old and wise leader stood. He had seen wars rise and fall, empires burn and rebuild, but even he trembled as he spoke. "We treated them as nothing," he said. "Now they return as everything." His words fell heavy in the chamber. No one argued. Because deep inside, they all knew he was right. The galaxy had mocked humanity, and now the price had come. The counselors demanded to know what could be done. Could alliances stop them? Could the united fleets of the galaxy overwhelm even human power? Generals answered with shaking heads. "You saw what one ship did," they said. "What good are 1,000 when none can touch them?" Some empires began to plan escape, speaking of abandoning their worlds and fleeing to the far edges of space where maybe, just maybe, humans would not follow. Others whispered of secret weapons, but no weapon seemed strong enough now. Nothing mattered. The balance of power was broken. The galaxy belonged to humanity, whether humanity claimed it or not. Back on the battlefield, the black warship remained in silence. It did not move, did not attack, did not vanish. It simply stayed, a reminder, a shadow over the stars. Every moment it lingered was a warning. And in every council chamber, leaders trembled at the thought that this was only the beginning. If one ship could do this, what would happen when an entire human fleet appeared? Would the galaxy burn? Would whole empires vanish? Would the humans demand obedience, or would they bring extinction? The questions tore through every mind, but no answers came. Humanity gave none. They had spoken only once, and their words were final. This battle is over. Now the galaxy waited in fear, wondering what the humans would say next, and dreading the day they chose to speak again. The black warship hovered in silence, its dark hull reflecting the broken battlefield where once two mighty empires clashed. The stars seemed dimmer around it, as if even light itself feared to come too close. Across the galaxy, billions waited, watching through feeds, holding their breath in terror. In the council chamber, leaders sat frozen, their voices gone, their arrogance crushed. No one dared to speak, no one dared to command, because all power had shifted to the shadow in the void. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the warship spoke again. Its voice was calm, steady, the voice of humanity carried across the stars. "We did not seek war," it said. The words echoed in every ship, every world, every chamber. "We asked for peace. You denied us. We asked for respect. You mocked us. We asked for silence, and you brought war to our skies. Now you will hear our final warning." The galaxy shivered. Never had words carried such weight. Never had a voice bent the pride of empires. The human voice continued. "We do not wish to rule your stars. We do not wish to take your worlds. But if you bring war to us again, if you bring death to our people, we will not answer with peace. We will end your wars before they begin. We will burn the weapons from your hands. We will erase your fleets as though they never existed. This is our warning, and it will not be given twice." Silence followed. The council members trembled. Some collapsed into their seats, whispering prayers. Others stared in horror, knowing that these words were not a threat, but a promise. The galaxy understood that humanity did not need to conquer. They had already won. Fear was stronger than any chain, and fear now ruled every empire. On distant colonies, alien children asked their parents who the humans were, and the parents had no answer. On warships returning home, soldiers sat pale and shaking, knowing they had looked into the face of extinction and survived only because the humans allowed it. Across the void, the warship remained still, a silent shadow that seemed larger than planets, larger than fear itself. Then, without a flare of engines, without a ripple of light, it began to move. Slowly, it turned away from the battlefield, drifting back into the darkness from where it had come. The surviving fleets did not follow. They did not dare. No one even moved until it was gone from their sensors, and even then, none trusted it had truly left. It could still be watching. It could always be watching. In the council chambers, a new silence fell. The empires who had once laughed at Earth now whispered in fear. They debated how to respond, but no one suggested defiance. The bravest of them said, "Perhaps if we obey, they will leave us alone." The wisest of them knew the truth. Humanity had left, but the shadow of their return would never fade. Whole civilizations would change their ways because of this single event. Wars would end out of fear of attracting humanity's gaze. Fleets would be dismantled not for peace, but to avoid judgment. The galaxy was no longer free. It was living under a silent watch, under the eye of Earth. On the battlefield, wreckage drifted where the erased fleets had once fought. Survivors limped home, carrying tales of the ship that erased whole armadas with a single pulse. Those stories spread like fire, and with each telling, they grew. Some called the warship a weapon. Others called it a god. But the truth was more terrifying. It was human. Humanity had not returned as weak beggars at the council's door. They had returned as a force that could end wars with words and erase empires with a single thought. And as the galaxy whispered, as empires trembled, as children feared the shadows between stars, one truth burned brighter than all others. That was only one ship. Humanity had more. Somewhere in the dark, fleets of these shadow vessels waited, unseen, silent, patient. The galaxy knew now that humanity would not strike without reason. But if that reason came, if war ever touched Earth again, then the stars themselves would burn. The final warning had been given, and it would never be repeated. The galaxy had frozen in fear when humanity's warship entered the battlefield, but now it would live in fear forever, knowing the humans had returned, and knowing they were always watching.